Good morning, everybody. Wow. Thank you for that. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to our Fall 2022 Landon Lecture at Kansas State University. We are honored to be able to continuously build on this prestigious lecture series established back in 1966, the year I was born. It was established by K-State President James McCain as a tribute to Alfred M. Landon. Alf, as he went by, Alf Landon, was the 26th governor of Kansas and a prominent political figure in our country, in addition to being the Republican Party nominee for United States President in 1936. He was a champion for society by proposing programs that dealt with women's suffrage, antitrust legislation, prohibition of child labor, and many other important causes. He was willing to take a stand, and he was willing to make a difference in the lives of so many who depended on strong, compassionate leaders to address the difficult issues of the day. Our mission with the Landon Lecture Series is to bring distinguished, inspirational leaders to campus to discuss important topics that will stimulate thought, open our minds to diverse perspectives, and spark healthy conversations about issues that impact our lives and well-being, and that's exactly what we plan to do today. Before I introduce our speaker, I would like to recognize a few individuals in attendance from K-State, as well as distinguished guests that are here with us today. As I mention your name, if you'd please stand and remain standing. Dr. Chuck Tabor, Provost and Executive Vice President. Ms. Monica McFarland, President of the University Support Staff. Mr. Parker Volgamore, Student Body President and Senior in Agricultural Economics. Mr. Jeff Ebeck, Student Body Vice President and Senior in Finance and Economics. Let's give our K-State folks a big round of applause. Thank you. And now for our distinguished guests. United States Representative Tracy Mann, also a K-State alumni. Kansas Senator Tom Hawk, also a K-State alumnus. And by the way, we've got a theme going here. Kansas Representative Sidney Carlin, also a Kansas State alumnus. Kansas Representative Ken Rejas. Chair of the Kansas Board of Regents, John Rolfe. Kansas Board of Regents, Carl Ice, also a Kansas State alumni. Kansas Board of Regents, Cindy Lane. Our very own Mayor of Manhattan, Linda Morse. Manhattan City Commissioner, Yusha Reddy, also a K-State alumni. Manhattan City Commissioner, Mark Hadasal. Manhattan City Commissioner John Matta. And finally, Kansas Representative Mike Dotson. Thank you to our patrons that make this lecture series possible. We could not do these lectures without you. Thank you. Now we'd like to provide a tribute to Barry Flinchball. We wish to pay tribute today to Dr. Barry Flinchball, who passed away in the time period since our last Landon Lecture. Dr. Flinchball was Emeritus Professor of Agricultural Economics and taught agricultural policy to more than 4,000 undergraduate students during a nearly half-century career at Kansas State University. He also served as chair of the prestigious Lecture Series, as well as chair and representative for many years, and was a strong advocate in the series. The Landon Lecture Series and Kansas State University are both stronger because of his leadership. I want to share my gratitude with you and all members of our audience for being here today. Each of your voices is vital in the critical conversations that impact our world. We appreciate your interest and your time. Following the lecture, we will have about 15 minutes to take questions from the audience. And now, the time that we've been waiting for, the introduction of our speaker. David Beasley is a champion of the fight against hunger. As executive director of the United Nations World Food Program, he has mobilized resources to respond in an ever-increasing need for food around the world. In 2021, the World Food Program helped feed more than 128 million people, a record number. Beyond emergency food assistance, the World Food Program also highlights how long-term development can help bring peace and stability to troubled regions. Under David's leadership, the World Food Prize Program was awarded the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize. Give a round of applause for that. Prior to that, David served as governor of the state of South Carolina from 1995 to 1999, where he guided the state during years of economic transformation, helping to reshape the state's economy into a healthy, diverse, and robust market. The work led to one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country, with a dramatic increase in private senior capital investment. David was the first governor in South Carolina to make a public push for the removal of the Confederate battle flag from the state Capitol dome, a move that earned him the J.F. Kennedy Profile in Courage Award. In today's lecture, David will reflect on Kansas's legacy in global food security. Kansas, and indeed Kansas State University, have played a significant role in providing a way to feed the world. The cultivation of knowledge and expertise to address complex challenges and improve lives is central to the land-grant mission of Kansas State University. And through collaboration and shared vision, the university has worked to harness the innovative capacity, build on our strengths, and increase its impact on the world and the world around it, specifically in the future of the global food system. It could not be a more perfect time to have our distinguished lecturer visit us here at Kansas State University. As one of the influential leaders in the world of food security today, we look forward to the insights and analysis David will share with students, faculty, staff, and university guests today. Please help me in welcoming Mr. David Beasley to the podium.
Thank you very much. President Linton, thank you. The hospitality has been remarkable. We have so many mutual friends, and to be here, I feel like I'm among family and friends. But as President Linton said at breakfast this morning with a group of students about football, knowing that I come from Clemson, there's a chance that we could end up playing at the end of the year. Our friendship disappears on that day. The Tigers or the Wildcats. I've learned how to do this. But I did sneak in a picture like that. President Linton, thank you so very much. And it is truly an honor to be here. When I looked at the distinguished list of speakers in the past, I told the president, I said, you're now at the bottom of the barrel. But quite frankly, to have this discussion on this day, in this time in world history, it couldn't be more appropriate, because we are facing unquestionably, undeniably, a food security crisis beyond anything we have seen at least since World War II. And quite frankly, it's going to get a whole lot worse in the next 24 months. We'll break this down today. When I took this role as the executive director of the World Food Program 5.5 years ago, reluctantly, quite frankly, President Trump was elected, and friends called and said they were very concerned about strategic international aid being cut. And what I consider taking this role to my Republican and Democrat friends in the Senate and the House said, you can talk him out of that. Please take this role. And I'm like, look, I don't want a job. I don't need a job. Well, anyway, 6 years later. And it wasn't that difficult convincing President Trump of the value of strategic international aid and how food security is critical to the stability of nations around the planet. And what was and has been a beautiful thing, in spite of Washington, D.C., on both ends of Pennsylvania Avenue, that appear to be fighting over any and everything regardless of the issue, how they come together on food security is absolutely a beautiful and powerful thing. When I walk into the halls of Congress, whether the House or the Senate, and Tracy Mann knows this, firsthand experience, and Jerry Moran, it's amazing to see them drop their difference and say, Governor, what can we do? What needs to be done? So when I took this role 5.5 years ago, my goal at that time was to put the World Food Program out of business. At that time, there were only 80 million people, as we would say, marching to starvation. That's different than chronic hunger. But those in severe food insecurity status are those that end up in famine, destabilization of nations, or mass migration. So being a former United States governor, I like to set goals, objectives, benchmarks. What can we do to put the World Food Program out of business? That's something you don't see from many UN or government agencies, right? So I would go into a country and say, all right, you've been here 30 years, maybe it's not working. What do we need to do differently so that we create food independence, sustainability, resilience for the people in that country? Well, sadly enough, the number went, instead of going from 80 down to 0, it went from 80 to 135. That was right before COVID. So the question would be, why did it rise? And the simple answer, number one, is man-made conflict, matters of the heart. Number two was climate shocks. COVID comes along. Economic devastation, disruption of supply chains around the world, especially in the poorest of the poor countries. The number went from 135 million people marching to starvation to 276 million people. These are not numbers, folks. These are real people with real names living in communities, struggling to survive. The economic devastation from COVID lingered, and the coping capacity of the poorest of the poor was completely wiped away, living from hand to mouth on a day-to-day basis. Heartbreaking, tragic, from country to country. So just when you think it couldn't get any worse, you have Ethiopia war, Afghanistan, and then the breadbasket of the world, Ukraine, grows enough food to feed 400 million people, now the longest bread lines on the planet. When you take a nation that grows enough food to feed 400 million people and take it out of the market, the impact is just catastrophic. I was already saying at the end of 2021, and if you go back and watch my Nobel Peace Prize speech in December 11 months ago, you'll see us talking about 2022 pre-Ukraine would be the worst humanitarian year since World War II. Because of conflict, because of COVID, because of climate shocks and pricing inflation. Many leaders couldn't understand that. Then Ukraine comes along. Dozens upon dozens of nations around the planet depend upon the grain from Ukraine. 50% of what we were buying came from Ukraine. We feed, assist about 130 million people on any given day, week, or month. But the poorest of the poor countries that were relying on grain from Russia, Ukraine, or fertilizers from Russia, for example, you've got dozens upon dozens of nations that were devastated. You've seen the pricing that has increased around the world, the impact that it's having on the average family in America. I heard Senator Bozeman yesterday in Arkansas say that it's about $570 per family per month, the impact. Well, imagine the impact that it has on a mother trying to feed a family in Niger when 75% of their income already goes to food. The impact that it has. In many of these very poor places, it's 7 times the cost that it was just a couple years ago. I have mother after mother tells me personally, I was just in Syria, just in Afghanistan, and now that the winter months are coming back, Mr. Beasley, I don't have any more money, and I now have to choose, do I buy heating oil and therefore starve my children to death, or do I buy cooking oil and therefore freeze my children to death? But I cannot buy both. It's unprecedented what we're facing, and in the midst of all this, when all the political leaders around the world were fixated on the eastern border of Ukraine because of the military invasion by Russia, I immediately went down to Odessa and said, you've got to open these ports, which was not a simple thing because even the Ukrainians didn't want to open the ports out of fear of Russian invasion. But 50% of the Ukrainian economy, the GDP, is based on those ports. This was not just a Ukrainian matter. If Putin maintained the blockade without firing a shot along that coastline, the economy of Ukraine collapses and food security just absolutely just is a tsunami on top of a perfect storm. You can't imagine it getting any worse. And so when the Black Sea Grain Initiative came together, and it was a lot of work, a lot of effort, I remember tweeting to President Putin. I said, if you want to bring famine to the rest of the world, keep these ports closed. But leaders in Ukraine and the rest of the world began to understand the significance of getting those ports open because supply chains mean everything. And President Putin and Russia came to the table, and we had the Black Sea Grain Initiative. You only saw 3 days ago that it fell apart. Fortunately, we were able to renegotiate, putting it back together again. But it's a very fragile agreement. Now, that's as to grains, but fertilizers. It's hard to understand the impact globally when 30% of all wheat is produced out of that region, like Russia and Ukraine, or 20% of all maize, corn from Russia and Ukraine, and I could go on down. Russia's the #1 exporter of fertilizer. There are 8 billion people on the planet. 4 billion of those people eat because of fertilizer. I don't care if you love or hate Russia. We got to have those fertilizers. And now, because of the droughts that we're facing around the world, here in the heartland, the Midwest and the South, India, South America, the Horn of Africa, compounded with fuel costs, food costs, shipping costs, our operational expense has increased because of fuel, shipping, and food costs by over $70 million per month. Imagine what the poorest of poor are facing around the world. And it's not like you can sit back and say, well, you know, we're struggling here in America, so we go take care of just ourselves. Let me tell you, it's really pretty simple. It's like you've got leaking water lines in the ceiling. You can go up there and fix the water lines, or you can say, I'm not going to worry about it. So instead of spending $200-300 on fixing the water lines in the ceiling, you wait a year and you replace all of the carpet, all of the flooring, all of the furniture, everything. There's not another option. I've seen it firsthand, and I can assure you, when you feed 130 million people on any given day, week, or month like we do, we survey people all the time, and they don't want to leave home. But if you don't have food for your children, in any degree of peace, you will do for your child what you've got to do, if that includes risking their lives, crossing border after border after border, whether it's from the Middle East into Europe or whether it's in the Darien Gap coming from Central America into the United States. I can support a family in Guatemala, a resilience program with the World Food Program's experience for $1 to $2 a week. That same child ends up on the border in the United States at a child shelter. It's $4,000 a week. So, Mr. Taxpayer, what do you think is a better investment? $4,000 a week or $2 a week? It's not complicated, is it? That's why I've been so proud of our Republican and Democrat senators and House members who understand the power and the importance of food security. But this didn't happen all by itself. When you think about the simple fact that 200 years ago, when the world's population was 1.1 billion people and 95% of the people on planet Earth were in extreme poverty, and today it's less than 10%. We have built systems and programs and institutions that's sharing wealth, achieving food security in unprecedented ways. Sadly, in the last few years, we're going in the wrong direction. And I tell a lot of my young people who sometimes want to tear everything down, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Because they're concerned about that 10% we haven't reached yet. So we don't tear down the system that's reaching 90 to get to the 10. We continue to fight to improve the systems to reach that final 10%. So how have we gone from 94% poverty, extreme poverty, to where we are today? In 1953, there was an old country farmer named Peter O'Brien up in Cheyenne County, northwest, not Arkansas, Kansas. If I told you how many countries I've been in the last 2 weeks. And by the way, well, I don't know if I should say this or not. I got a message from the King of England yesterday to be at Buckingham Palace tomorrow. I'm here in Kansas. I'm a big fan of Dorothy. There ain't no place like home. So Peter O'Brien clearly understood the significance of agricultural commodities and surpluses. And of course, being a good old country boy with a good heart, how can we take these surpluses and help the poorest of the poor around the world? So he went to his local farm bureau in Cheyenne County, and they made a little resolution, which got then adopted at the statewide farm bureau, 1953, which got then adopted at the American Federation Farm Bureau across the country. And you had a senator and a congressman that said, wow, well, we like that. So they put in a piece of legislation, and it ended up being Public Law 480. And guess who signed it? Old local boy, Dwight Eisenhower, President of the United States from Kansas. Kansas clearly understood that, wow, if we can help these people who need help and help them get their feet back on the ground, well, it not only helps them, but eventually they go end up buying more food from us. So it's a good thing. I believe that America is great because America is good. And if America ever ceases to be good, America will cease to be great. Kansas has been at the heart of improving the lives of people all over the world. And this morning, when I sat down with many of the students, with President Linton and Sally, and listening to the stories and listening not just to the heartbeat of these young men and women, but listening to their experience already and their expertise, I'm like, wow, I know I can teach them a few things, but I think they can teach me a lot of things. Because now they realize, because of what we are seeing around the world, that food security is a big deal. And what you're doing here at Kansas State is critical to global security. As the Nobel Peace Prize Committee said, food is the pathway to peace. And food for peace which was the program that came out of Public Law 480, which was therefore the genesis for the World Food Program, you have been building that pathway to peace, which is why food security has been improving these past many decades, but we've got more work to do. Yes, we've got to improve yields. Yes, we got to improve harvest. Yes, we got to improve seeds. Yes, we got to improve fertilizer. Yes, we got to improve practices. What else do we need to do? How do we reduce waste and all the different things that must be done? But let me say, we're running out of time. We have a food pricing problem right now. But next year, we very well will have a food availability problem. If the Black Sea Grain Initiative collapses and we don't get the Russian fertilizers and the grains out of that region as we need, honestly, I don't know how we don't avert a depression by the end of next year. In 2006 and 2007, when you had the food crisis then, along with Arab Spring in 2011, you had 48 nations that had riots, civil unrest, and protest. The economic indicators today are much, much worse. We're already seeing destabilization in many nations, riots, protests, Central America and South America. We've actually seen them in Panama, of course, Haiti, Peru, Indonesia, Chad, Burkina Faso. I can go on and on and on already. And we have nowhere hit near the bottom of what we are facing. So in the immediate, we've got a lot of work to do. But imagine when we have a world population of 10 billion people. I honestly believe that we can truly end world hunger by 2030, which was the Sustainable Development Goals adopted by the United Nations around the world. But we will never achieve that as long as we have man-made conflict. And I've been hard on the leaders in private, saying that you got to slow down and we've got to end some of these wars like Ethiopia, Ukraine, and Syria, and Yemen, Afghanistan. And we've got to resolve issues with countries like North Korea and Iran and Venezuela. How do we do these things so we can stabilize the planet? Because we truly are facing extremely difficult times ahead. And I'm very worried. One of the hardest questions I get from the media is, how do you stay optimistic amidst all the darkness? An old friend of mine told me one time, he said, you know, all the darkness in the world can't put out the light of one little match. When I get out there in those war-rubbled villages of Syria or Niger or Ethiopia, amidst all the pain and suffering, I'll see that little child come out from behind that rubble, and I'm like, that's what we're fighting for. You see, if we're not there, it's not that just that child may or may not die, or that child may or may not get the nutrition that he or she needs, so she won't be stunted and wasted and diminished the opportunities of economic opportunity in a country. World Bank has done all kinds of studies on this. You're talking about 10, 15% reduction of GDP by failing to provide children the food they need in early years. You get that, you understand that. But these children, when I get out there and see them, it just inspires me. Because I believe that every human being on the planet is created in the image of God. And that every child out there is special. And that's our little brother, and that's our little sister, and we shouldn't turn our back on them. Now, if we don't reach them, you have famine, you have destabilization, you have mass migration, and the cost is a lot more. I was just speaking into the Bundestag, the German parliament, just a couple of weeks ago. Failure of the Europeans to address the situation in Syria at the right time. For example, in Germany alone, with 1 million refugees over a 5-year period, was a price tag of $125 billion. Do the math, $70 a day just on humanitarian aid, not even getting to the other costs of military operations, et cetera, which is a lot more. I can feed the World Food Program a Syrian in Syria for 50 cents a day. And actually that's a little bit high, but if you tried moving supply chains in a war zone, it costs a little bit more. And a Syrian, like any other potential refugee around the world, because we survey them, they will move 2, 3, 4, 5 times in their home area before they will eventually leave. They'll go to their aunts or the cousins or the brothers or the friends, and then finally, if they've exhausted everything, they will eventually leave. And you can talk to them wherever they are, and they're like, I want to go back home. I did not want to leave. But the heart of the American people is just a remarkable thing. One of the things I've really been frustrated with the international media is that, I can tell you what Prince Harry was wearing yesterday or what Donald Trump did at 3:15 p.m. yesterday. And I'm like, look, I don't care if you love or hate these issues, but the propaganda coming out of the social media today is destroying the hearts of people all over the world, creating so much division. And I was talking to the young people today. I said, you got to figure this thing out. I said, I honestly feel like we could shut down TV for about a week or a month and shut down the propaganda for this. Actually, things probably calm down. But we can also use these things as we do to do amazing things. You don't realize that the World Food Program, how we've modified and changed since the original days of Food for Peace. We now, we feed 128, 130 million people, and this year we plan to scale that up even more. We've got about 23,000 employees now. Then we subcontract out, so to speak, with about another, 50 or 75,000. World Vision, Samaritan's Purse, the list goes on and on. We've got about 5,000, 6,000 trucks out there, ships on the open seas, 120, 30 airplanes in the skies, dropping food, carrying passengers. And by the way, when COVID hit, remember the airline industry pretty much shut down. Well, we can't shut down. We can't just say, we're not going to feed you this month. One of the reasons we did receive the Nobel Peace Prize is because our women and men lay their lives on the line every day to keep it going for the poorest of the poor. And so when the airline industry was shut down, we're actually the supply chain logistics hub for the United Nations and humanitarian operations. For UNICEF, WHO, UNHCR, refugees, whatever it may be. So somebody needed to be carrying the COVID supplies out there. So we were delivering COVID supplies all over the world, 183 countries, until the airline industry finally got its footing, learning from us on how to do these things and one another as we do on supply chains. Out there, we now put $2.3 billion worth of cash into the communities. There are places where we bring in food, there's no food, and bringing in money won't help. You bring in food. And then there are places where there might be food, but they don't have money. So how can we not displace the local farmers, create economic opportunity, and how can we buy more locally, in addition to why we're buying from here in the United States, to help stimulate market supply and supply chains in these countries? One of the things we like to do is, if I want to put the World Food Program out of business, how can we create sustainability and resilience? Taking advantage of what you've done here in research and development and taking that out around the planet, scaling it up. In a lot of places, if we're providing food year in, year out, when is that going to stop unless you provide a solution? Many places about harvesting water. The poorest of the poor countries pay the price on the climate shocks. And guess what? We call it food for asset, because I have not met a beneficiary that really wanted outside support. They don't. They want to take care of their families. If you want to learn about the entrepreneurial spirit and capitalism, you get an African woman and put the same tools in her hand you give others. I can tell you firsthand, it's a beautiful thing to see. I've stood there with more women when we came in and helped them, putting down like a water well or a water harvesting system to rehabilitate the land so they can grow their own crops. And I've stood there from woman after woman over the past years and said, Mr. Beasley, we depended on you 100% 2 years ago. Now, because of what you've worked with us, we're growing our own crops. We're feeding our own families. We're selling into the marketplace. We're buying our own clothes and medicines for our children. And I just paid for my son's wedding. Holy moly. You see, when we're not there, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, and other extremist groups recruit using food as a weapon of war. When we come in with the right programs, and if we complement a food security system with like a homegrown school meals, let me tell you what happens. Migration drops off the chart. Teen pregnancy and marriage rate of 12 and 13-year-olds drops off the chart. Recruitment by extremist groups drops off the chart. Quantify each one of those compared to that $1 to $2 a week. It's an incredible investment. And while we've made so much progress, we've got so much more work to do. Just in the past few years, WFP, when I say that, I mean our beneficiaries, have rehabilitated over 3.5 million acres of land. Built over 109,000 small ponds, small dams, reservoirs. 81,000 kilometers of feeder roads. 26,000 kilometers of irrigation lines and water canals. 380,000 community gardens. I could go on and on. It's a good investment. But we will not do it by government, United Nations, and philanthropy alone. Many of you in this room, in the private sector, and the farming community understand the significance of what I'm about to say. The private sector is fundamental in ending poverty and hunger around the world. We must do it together. My belief is, how can I empower the private sector in every country that we are in so that we're no longer needed? What more do we need to do on the research that's being now developed upon the successes that you have had, President Linton? Clearly, the commitment here at Kansas State University is a role model for the rest of the world. And your congressional delegations, I mean, when I think about Bob Dole, the conversations that he and I have had over the years, and I could go on. And by the way, when I was governor, Bill Graves was the governor here. And Jim Slattery heard I was here, sent me a message last night. I didn't know you were coming to Kansas. And you got Jerry Moran and Tracy, got his whole family here. The commitment of the women and the men in this room. This is why I have hope about our future. With all the division in America, it's your love that will move us forward. People are struggling around the world, but people are also struggling here. Don't underestimate what your loving hands can do for a neighbor that might be around the corner. Be willing to step out and touch them. Loneliness and brokenness is the number one problem in the world today. The power of a hug, a smile, those things go a long way. But when I meet with these students like I have this morning, it inspires me, encourages me, and gives me hope. They can learn from your experiences. They can learn from our mistakes. But the future of the world is dependent upon the men and women in this room. Thank you for allowing me to be with you. Thank you for allowing me to share with you the insights, but also the opportunities that we have before you. God bless Kansas State University and The Wildcats.
So we do have some time for questions, but I think there's also a teachable moment. You know, you've heard the saying that if you provide a piece of fish to man, man will eat for a day. But if you can teach a man how to fish, they'll fish for life and eat for life. Well, at Kansas State in the Landon Lecture Series, if you ask a man to lead and be the lecturer for the Landon Lecture Series, you're going to have a pretty good day, as all of us here have had a great day. But more importantly, if you teach a man how to do this, they're a wildcatter for life. Come on, you got to do that. Come on. No.
That's the tiger paw.
So I think for questions, the way that we're going to do this, if you could please come up to the microphone and please very clearly indicate who you are and clearly indicate the question that you have for David. And as that's happening, as people flood to the front of the stage here, I do have a question I'd like to ask. Certainly COVID-19 has had a tremendous impact to our entire world, and food insecurity certainly was impacted by COVID-19, both here and abroad. Can you talk a little bit about what you think the impacts have been short-term and long-term with the COVID-19 pandemic on food insecurity?
Yeah. You know, when COVID hit and all the leaders were shutting down the economies and supply chains around the world, not realizing the consequences, Tony Blair, y'all remember Tony Blair? Tony called me and said, he said, David, you go to more countries and see more things than anybody I know on the planet. What do you see out there? And I said, Tony, I'm really worried because the leaders are focused on COVID like this, not realizing that the cure they're putting in place is going to kill more people than the disease itself. I said, we got to balance out a COVID pandemic with a hunger pandemic. Otherwise, more people will die from hunger. And so I began walking through with him 2 or 3 or 4 countries of what was going to happen over the next 4 quarters if we didn't resolve supply chain issues. And Tony was like, oh my God, you got to go and speak to the United Nations Security Council and deliver this message. And I did. A couple weeks later, I went and spoke to the United Nations Security Council, laid out this very clear message. And it's one of the good things about not needing a job. I can say what I think, and if you need to fire me. You know, I'm an old NASCAR boy. You know, there are 4 turns in a track. First turn, second turn, third turn, fourth turn. Then you got that final straightaway. Well, at my age, I'm in 4th turn. And I ain't slowing down for the last straightaway. So I will say what I think needs to be said, do what I believe is right, because people pay a price. It's not like we're making more furniture here at the World Food Program. People don't have a good seat. We're talking about people dying. So I laid it out there, and the world leaders began to realize, wow, we've got to balance out this supply chain. And because it was critical. What was devastating was not just COVID in a 1-year period, but it began to recycle and recycle. And the debt that was increased for social safety net programs in the poorest of the poor countries put the debt level in many of these countries at an unprecedented level. So when COVID recycled again, because we were coming off of very successful years of a lot of general reserve dollars, the GDP, trillions of dollars around the world. So there was a lot of money available, but that was depleted, and the poorest of the poor. And so one of the things that I did was I began, if you remember, tweeting with Elon Musk and others saying, hey, you were making $5.2 billion net worth increase per day during COVID. How about give me 1 day's worth of your net worth increase? Because we're, you know, and again, that's not the long-term solution. I want their engagement, but we're facing a short-term phenomenon. And so the supply chain disruption, because if you don't get fertilizers or seeds or whatever it might be at the right time, not just food, because you might have all the food you need. We pre-position food for months in advance. And the systems that we now have in place with artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies, what we do and how we pre-position food all over the world saves us hundreds of millions of dollars a year. But if you don't get the seeds out there at the right time because you've got a port shut down because of the COVID restriction and the fertilizers can't get in, or the feed for the sheep or the chickens or the livestock can't get in, well, I could give you some stories where a couple countries shut down and we had 10 times the number of people die from starvation than they did from COVID. It's not either or. It's about balancing it out and doing it right. And so I can get into this COVID discussion all day long. And we're going to have more of this kind of stuff as my background, not many people know this, at Clemson was microbiology, virology, et cetera. Whoa. Yeah, go Tigers. Anyway. So
I so hope we play a football game.
I do too, but anyway. So Ebola. Not many people realize that when you have like an Ebola outbreak. Now you want to talk about when you need to do a shutdown and isolate. Boy, that's it. Because about half of the people get that die. And so we are the containment mechanism. When everybody's running out and running to the hills, well, we got to come in and try to provide food to contain the situation, whether it's in DRC or Uganda or wherever it might be. Or remember when it was on the west coast of Africa, I know a lot of people saw the disasters there, but we came in and contained the situation there. Yeah.
Got a question here.
Yes, my name is Jake Seeger. I'm a senior studying agricultural economics. As you mentioned, man-made conflict is one of the largest, largest deterrents to global food security. I was curious, in your expertise, in your opinion, what the best avenue to reduce man-made conflict is. Like, how do you get to a point where you can decrease that in a world where there is so much division?
In my opinion, that's not as hard as it would seem. You know, the whole world seems to be governed by Twitter cycles. You know, the tweet of the day or the news cycle of the week. And leaders are not slowing down to give the depth of attention that's necessary to resolve many of these issues. In private, I've been really hard on a lot of leaders. I really have. You talk about your impression of faith. Well, how are you loving your enemy here? Why are you not bringing peace to your nation here? I don't care what their religion is. I don't back down off this stuff. You say you believe this, and why are you not doing it in your country? You need to sit down with that leader and bring peace to your nation. And that's what has got to be done. The leaders of the world, particularly the leaders with wealth, need to put the pressure on leaders of conflict in such a way that it resolves these issues. We're now making a big breakthrough in Ethiopia. We've been involved with that. The one in Sudan, South Sudan, we've been engaged. We, meaning the World Food Program, and our friends and relationships. A lot of these conflicts, we don't have time to get into it, were avoidable. And we've made them worse and worse. I don't want to get into the details of that publicly, but it's a real situation that, in my opinion, a lot of these issues can be addressed and resolved. But these are matters of the heart. There's not enough money in the world to resolve that. But shaming and bringing pressure on leaders to do what's good and what's right, we need to get back there. And this is what I love about the heartland of America, because people have faith, they have values, they believe and understand about how do we forgive one another, but how do we hold each other accountable to a higher standard. And so, anyway, it's the number one problem on the planet. The second right now is the climate shocks, you know, which is all this is accumulating in what we're facing now.
K-State. I'm a soil microbiologist. So, all right, microbiology. So I do work on climate change and agriculture. So you just mentioned the climate shocks, but I guess, you know, what's the UN Food Program and what you're doing to help provide some resilience in that? You know, Pakistan was in a multi-year drought and then all of a sudden had massive floods in just a short period of time. How are you building that resilience and capacity around the world?
Yeah, and the multiple factors there from, of course, you get into the situation of better seeds, different types of fertilizers, using less water and all those things. But while the world debates and discusses the issues of mitigation, these poorest of the poor have got to survive in the meantime, and that means adaptation. One of the things I have been pretty tough on the major donor countries like the United States and Germany and the EU is it give us the flexibility. Instead of us just bringing food in, give us the flexibility to rehabilitate the land so that we can capture the limited water that there might be, and then have water diversions for flash flooding, holding ponds, and then irrigation lines down into, let's say, a valley. I can give you example after example, like Mazar al-Sharif in Afghanistan. So, and Max remembers this when I was there the first year I was in this role. So I went and met with tribal leaders. I mean, we got Taliban. I mean, we deal with a lot of, cats out there, wildcats. So.
Slowly but surely.
And so I talked to this leader, and he had a valley out there. When the rains are just right, the sun's just right, the valley's beautiful. But if there's flash flooding, it wipes out the valley. Or if there's a drought, you know what happens. So what we came in there and did water diversionary tactics and putting up small dams, holding ponds, reservoirs, diverting the water from the flash flooding into these holding ponds. And then we had the irrigation lines and the beneficiaries, because we have a whole team of engineers. I mean, we build roads, we build bridges, we do irrigation systems, water systems. And so now when they have a flash flood, the water's diverted, the valley's protected, they have the drought, they've got the irrigation lines. And I said, how has it made a difference in your community? And this feller stood there and said, Mr. Beasley, before our children were leaving, they were joining anti-government rebel forces, but now they see hope and they see opportunity. That's just one example of the many types of resilience programs that we're doing. We're now talking about saving lives and changing lives. The changing lives, in my opinion, is the vital part of ending food insecurity globally.
Hi, I'm Karen Goldberg, a faculty member at the Department of Geology at K-State. And I was wondering if you had some thoughts for us about how we can actually more efficiently transfer the knowledge that we develop here at the university with R&D, for example, to benefit programs such as the program you work on.
To me, this is a fundamental issue. And I really get frustrated with some of the governments and UN operations because I'm like, look, when we come into a country, it's one thing if it's a true short-term emergency. Like we try to help them build up their emergency operations so that we're not necessarily needed. But if you've got a cyclone, a major, natural disaster, we can come in there unlike anybody, and we're in and out. But today, it's a whole different world in many other ways because you've got protracted conflict, you've got long-term climate impact, all these different issues. And so, to me, when we come in to try to get on the ground and get it started and stabilized, then the question to me is that host government, like the Ministry of Agriculture or whatever it might be, what is it they need to learn from us so that they can scale it up and replicate it? This, in my opinion, is one of the greatest failures of the system. This is why I've been pushing for universities. I mean, I've been pushing with Clemson and many others. We've got to do more. And this is why I'm also being hard with a lot of my major private sector friends, is that while I'm interested in you coming into a country, maybe, okay, give them $1 million. That's great. But I need your engagement in that country to help build up the systems in place, rule of law, the different systems, obviously the different R&D success stories, and allow that to be taught and scaled up from country by country by country where it's applicable. Countries are different, and what works here is different there. This is critical to me. This is where FAO should be front and center, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there. That's not normally our role, but since I've been there, Max knows that first. Well, that's not WP role. Well, I'm like you. If you aren't getting it done, so either get it done or get out of our way. I mean, I'm sorry, because people are dying here, and the taxpayers are like, look, I'm tired of funding that same program there every year, and nothing's happening. And the governments in these poor countries need to step up, and leaders around the world need to hold these leaders to a higher standard of ethics, lack of corruption. And don't get me started there, because there's your number one problem in most of these places.
got time for one more question.
So I'm John Leslie, and it must be the day for microbiologists, since I too am a microbiologist.
If it's a hard question, I can let my driver answer the question.
Oh, okay. So I'm a faculty member in the plant pathology department here, and I've worked with USAID programs since the 80s. And one of the questions that I've always worried about is, what do we do to reduce the amount of food that a lot of the third world countries import on a regular and sustainable basis? Because they have to pay hard currency for that, which they don't have much. And if they could import other things, they could do a lot with it that they could do other than just surviving day to day. So how do we increase their ability to feed themselves?
I could actually talk on this for several hours. This is a very fundamental, critical question. Africa, for example, imports food. Africa could feed not just Africa, but for the rest of the world. So you got an opportunity here, and I say this because whenever I see a tragedy, I see a treasure of opportunity. So when we were blindsided with the Russia invasion of Ukraine, well, guess where the fertilizers come from? So how do we not put ourselves in a situation, whether it's Russia or any other place in the world, where any mineral or resource can hold the whole world hostage? So I've been talking with African leaders right now about, why don't you get into fertilizer production? What can we do to make certain that we've got fertilizer productions all over the world? Because European fertilizer production is down to zero right now. I mean, completely shut down for a variety of reasons. But imagine if we've diversified agricultural, because food is critical. Certain type of, whether it's phosphates, ammonia, whatever the case may be. So how do we diversify that? The other thing, what we do, as I was mentioning this earlier, is that we now buy billions of dollars worth of food inside Africa, helping stimulate the supply chain system. We're the world's largest provider, let's say, for example, of school meals outside of a government itself. India is the biggest, but when we provide expertise in this. But like homegrown school meals, we come in, instead of just bringing food in from the outside, we now come in and meet with the mothers, smallholder farmers, and we say, instead of us buying the food from the outside, bringing it in, we go work with you to grow better nutritional vegetables, crops, and we go buy from you. And guess what? It dynamically begins to create a supply chain. The children are now eating healthier, because in some countries like Guatemala, you've got enough calories, you don't have the right calories.
Yeah, it's
and
all
how do you
corn.
change that? You know, like coming down to South Carolina and telling us not to eat fried chicken. That ain't gonna go over too well. But if you start with the children, and changing their habits, they can eat a little bit of fried chicken, but not, you know what I mean. Anyway, so there's a lot of opportunity there. And that's where I think we've got to really zero in on investment, and it's got to be done. It's the long-term solution.
Let's give David.
Thank you.
Thanks for having so much fun.
Thank you. Yeah, great.